excellent at telling you how this software works. They can be excellent how to understand and tell you everything about the market. They can be excellent at saying what they know about the stock market. But however, it's not your strategy. Your technical analysis by way of chart patterns. So don't let news overwhelm you. The market itself is going to tell you where to go. However, if I do try to rely on news about a particular market, I like to go to what is called, and I like to go with what is called, and I'm going to put this camera right up here. It's the IBD, Investors Business Daily. A lot of times they be a lot accurate on what they say about the market. So I try to use this as a way of getting information. And I also keep it on my tablet. I do not like to keep news on my charts. These charts need to stay just what they are, charts. Try not to add YouTube. Try not to add entertainment. Try not to have any of those devices on your charts because it can distract you, right? So here, again, there's certain things I do pay attention to, such as the employment rate, the federal insurance when they jack up the interest rate, who became president is important. So there's a lot of little things you just don't. It's going to affect your market. So fundamental is still a part of this technical analysis, but not to the point where you have to become a fanatic about it and think like the sheep. You know, don't think like the sheep. Amateurs open the market, professionals close the market. Okay, moving right along. Okay, so here's a good thing, data window. Actually, you know what? I didn't even know this exists. And I'm glad I came to this because now you see the volume. Look what we have here. 933 million people is in this market right now, right? As of today of the 28th of October at this green candle right here, right? Green candle, look at it. That's a relatively small candle, right? What if we just clicked on yesterday? It won't do it though, but I want, the thing about your strategy, and this is important to know, this strategy requires at least um, 500 million people to be in the market, or a million people at least, in order, because remember the strategy needs three recipes. Let's just call them recipes. Volatility, is the market going up and down? You need this. You need that action. We don't care about the market going up. How people say the market is going up. The market can go down. Who cares? We're making money when the market goes up, and we're making money when the money goes down. But we need this because remember, if it was just like this, ba bump, ba bump, ba bump, you really wouldn't make no money because it's sideways consolidating. Okay, and then we need what is called liquidity. Liquidity is the ability to get your market in and out of the market. And again, I'm not going to touch down on explaining them because if you go back into the introduction, you go back into my lessons, you would have heard this before. Volatility, liquidity is what you need to be able to trade in this market. The ability to get your money in and out of the market, you know, and of course volume, and this is where we are now, the amount of people in the market, right? And I hate to say this, but 90% of the people that trade in the market, they lose in the market. That's the sheep. You're trying to make money like the banks. You're trying to move like the banks. So you're going to get in positions that the sheep would have already, the move had already been moved. You have to be steps ahead in this market, in your technical analysis, and that's what it's going to do. That's why we have a strategy. It just gives you a little edge. Nothing's guaranteed, but at least you'll have a 70% return, 30% loss. If you're not losing money, you're not using a strategy right. You have to lose money. Market has to turn. You have to lose a little for that make that turn. So yes, um, but sometimes it's all about how much you have on the market when you're losing and how much you have on the market when you're actually going your way. Very important. Okay, let's see if we can go somewhere else here. All right. So this really is giving us exchange volume gainers. I don't use it. You can use it if you want to. I just don't have no need for it. It doesn't benefit me in my strategy at all. I don't feel like I need it. If I did, I would have used it. Of course, we do have calendars, right? You can click on a lot of these calendars and get a little information. Something's coming out, some news, various different things that are happening, Royal Dutch Shell, you know, things that you may want to trade in, markets you may see, toggle through it, see if you see your market. So it's very good information. Next we have ideas. We talked about that earlier. If you have an idea, you can post it right there. Next we have more news. This is the Forex news. You can just see where it talks about crypto, stocks, all talks, natural gas, you know. So this is good information to have. Uh, and this is also, I'm sorry, I apologize. This right here, this particular one is um, actually this is individuals who are live streaming trades. These are followers of those individuals, right? And you can actually go on these. You can click there and you can actually listen to a lot of what they got to say, right? And this is your recent chats if you haven't chatted anything, right? And this is your ability to chat if you want to get involved in exchanging with this particular person. These are also people who are teaching open a short scalp could help for the GEO. So these are people that are actually chatting, and you can join in on these chats. They are actually also, you can follow these people, and they have what is called. And I actually am going to be on this site as well. So if you want to follow me, I just wanted us to get through the basics. Once we set up our charts, once we get through the basics, and I don't necessarily have to chat in this particular site. I prefer chatting by going on, again, proreadiness.traders.com and going on to my site. We link into my courses. We can chat through the course. Because if we're teaching each other the same strategy, why do we want to sit there and waste our time listening to other people's strategy? It's only going to confuse you because it's not going to help you in terms of your strategy. But your students, each and every one of you should be able to share. If you went to, and again, I talked about this in my previous lessons about candles. If John and Timmy wants to share charts together with Susie, fine. You guys have the same strategy. So if you're doing gold, she's doing silver, he's doing hogs, or he's doing S&P 500, you can borrow the chart and look at it. You can exchange each other's charts, and you may see something she doesn't see, and you can correct her because you all are on what? The same strategy. More people you have on the same strategy, more markets you can chart. If each one of you are doing 8 markets each, and there's 100 of you all, you have 80 markets to choose from. There's no way in the world that you could not find a play with this many people in this team we have, the Pro Readiness Traders. We are a team, and we're going to think alike, and we're going to see these charts alike, and we're going to understand these charts alike. So I ask you to don't get persuaded by a lot of this other people's stuff. It's just, you know, you know, it just will only confuse you. Okay, so then we have, you have no ideas, no notifications yet. So if you have any notifications, anybody emailing you or whatever, there it is. Okay, what do we have here? Now here's where uh, streaming. This is people that are streaming weekly trades, classes on various different. I suggest that when it comes to the class, you do not listen or learn from any of these classes. Um, for some odd reason, I always get a student that wants to bring in some information about another particular strategy and things like that. We're going to have people who decide that they got enough information and they're ready to go on their own, so they're going to take off. Unfortunately, they always come back, to listen more and realize that, they should have stayed a little while before they try to, you know, become again trainable before teachable. They're not even ready to trade yet. I wouldn't even suggest you even trying to open up a trading market unless you already have one, unless you're already advanced and you're just here waiting for me to get to the strategy part. If you paid your enrollment fees and there is advanced lessons, you should be able to run through these lessons and answer the multiple choice questions and be able to excel to where you need to be. Um, but I promised the students that we were going to go from A to Z, from the beginning to the end. Okay, last but not least, we have talked about notification, um, connected to a broker. If you want to connect to a broker, this is how you do it. Again, if it's TradeStation, OANDA, various different market companies, you can do that. I told you from the start, this is just my chart pattern. I will never connect to a broker. Why would I show the other football team my playbook? Why? Why would you show the other football team a broker, who's looking at all your strategies and stuff? Why would you show them your playbook? So you keep your trades right here, and then you have the broker separate. Okay. See, because you're fishing. You're a good fisherman out here. You're like a viper. Pew! You're hitting. You're snapping at. You're getting in. You're getting out the market. You're secretly. Your strategy is you're not thinking like the sheep. You know. You're trying to get money out of this. So you're trying to do it to where you don't have to wait long. I also recommend, if you can, to have multiple brokers, because there's times where in some brokers, they seem to realize that you can trade pretty good, and they may want to cover your fees or whatever they do, and all of a sudden that they're trying to tell you that, because you need to put stop losses, and you're telling them that I've had it where I've traded and done so well, or I've traded and done not so well, and for some odd reason the broker couldn't get all my money because I was doing so good at coming back up out of certain trades that I was down in or whatever. And then they started alerting me saying, hey, you need to put stop losses. You need to do all these. Well, if I'm in the minute or the hour, I don't have time to do all that. When you're aggressive trading, you don't have time to do it, which I don't recommend you do that before you understand how to set up a trade, because you can be knowing the market's going up, but you're aggressively trading it going down, knowing that you need to be in the position that you're originally set up on your technical analysis. Know the rules before you break them. Okay, so last but not least is the help center. Last but not least is the help center. So how can we help you? Select your issues, trading, charts, alerts, right? They have all this information about a lot of the things that you need to know about, which is good. Okay, so we went through all this part. Now we're going to come over here. We talked about the arrow, crosses, and things like that. The eraser, you can erase stuff, okay, that you draw, right? Okay, let's go back. Now let's go. This part right here is trend lines, arrows, trend lines, rays. Let's okay. We'll make trend lines as a favorite. I usually make trend lines as a favorite, right? And I'm gonna go back over here, and I like these horizontal rays right here. I like them as a favorite, and I like this horizontal line as a favorite, right? And later we'll show you what this do, but we'll just